Hello. Hello and welcome to this video. I've already made this video once, but I forgot to press record, so I'm doing it again. Today I want to talk about the internet's favourite pairing of modules that we all love, which is mutable instruments, rings and clouds. So I have used rings and clouds in so many videos, so many patches. You know, if you go back through all my old videos and you just click on one at random, there's probably like a 95% chance that it will have rings and clouds in there. Those are the two modules that got me into modular synthesis in the first place via VCV-Rack, and then they were the first modules that I bought when I started building a hardware eurorack system. And the reason is that they just sound so beautiful and they sound so lovely. They're so easy to use that we love them, and they get used quite a lot. So I'm kind of making an assumption here that if you're watching this video, you've probably got an idea of what those modules are already and what they do. But if not, so they are two modules by the company Modular Instruments, which sadly is no more. So rings, I think it's referred to as a modal resonator. It's a sort of a physical modeling module that models plucked and struck sounds. So it's not an oscillator. It's a sound source, but it's not an oscillator in the traditional sense. And so that's rings, and you can use it to create sort of these I guess sort of representations of like plucked, like always plucking a guitar string, or struck, like hitting a drum type sound. And then there's a dial dampening which you can turn up, and you can sort of extend that sound almost infinitely to create these kind of like pad type sounds. Although it's not polyphonic, you can have four notes ringing over the top of each other, so you can almost kind of get a polyphonic type sound, I guess. So that's rings. Clouds is I think it's called like a textural or granular synthesizer. So it does a lot of granular stuff, but also it has this really lovely reverb, which when you pair it with rings just sounds really lush and lovely. So I actually have two rings modules, and then I have a clouds. The majority of my mutable instruments modules are in fact they're clones from various companies, and my version of clouds is Typhoon, which has got all the different firmwares of clouds within it. I think all of my mutable instruments modules are clones actually, which was just because when I first started I had a very small case, and I thought if I get the clones, they're slimmer and I can get more modules in the case. Although nowadays I do find I wish I'd got the full size ones, because those tiny little dials and knobs and things are tricky to get to sometimes. But anyway, oh no, I've got beads. Beads is a full size one because I bought that more recently, and I bought a proper mutable instruments one. Anyway, I've gone off track. What was I saying? Yeah, so rings into clouds. It's this phenomenon that exists, especially within sort of like the ambient eurorack realm, because they are so easy to put together and pair, and pretty much every time you use them, they are going to sound really lovely and really beautiful and create these sort of lovely lush soundscapes. It's kind of, I feel like they've almost become they've definitely become a cliche, almost become like a genre within, like a subgenre within modular is like the rings clouds genre, because they are used so much. And as I say, I put myself in this category as well, that I use them all the time, because I just love that sound. A third module which we could possibly include within this, if we wanted to create a trio of cliche, although it's not sort of necessary all the time, is marbles, mutable instruments marbles, which is a random voltage generator. And I use that quite a lot to generate random voltages, to sequence and excite rings. That's, if I were to have 3 modules, you could just put those 3 modules together, and you've got like a really lovely sounding kind of generative ambient thing that will just go on forever with the random voltages and rings, and then into clouds with that lovely reverb. So those modules just work so well together. And really, I guess the point of this video is kind of like a critique of myself, because I use them so much. But if you find that my experience here sort of resembles your own or echoes some of your own experiences, then please do comment below. And I guess what the point that I'm getting to now is, have I become a little bit lazy? Has using these modules, because they always sound really good and they always sound great, has it made me lazy with my patching? Do I use them as kind of like a crutch to hold up the patch, or a comfort blanket to fall back on? I always know if something's not working, just whack a bit of rings in there, and it'll probably sound good. So is that the case? Have I become lazy? And I think the answer is yes, I have. These modules, as brilliant as they are, they have made me forget what else is going on and what else is available within that box there. And that's not necessarily a good thing. Oh, some teenagers are going past. Are they going to swear? No, I thought they were going to. What was I saying? I've forgotten. Yeah, so, and I don't necessarily have any answers to what you should do instead. Really the point of this video is to just kind of get you to think and question your what you do a little bit, and, for me to do the same. Maybe it's not, rings and clouds that you use that is the one thing that you use all the time. Maybe it's something else. We won't include sort of VCAs or other utility things, because you kind of have to use those, don't you? So, but yeah, are there other modules that are in a similar thing that you kind of always go to, that you sort of wish that you wouldn't, and you use something else instead, but it's there as your sort of crutch or comfort blanket? And what are some of the ways that you could try and sort of deviate away from that a little bit? So what I've personally been trying to do recently is to, quite often I would start off, the first thing I would do would be patch up, marbles, rings, clouds, that start like that, and then go off into whatever else. So what I try and do now is to ignore those modules, and try and patch up something else. And if I feel that I need to bring, I want to bring rings into it, then fine, that's okay. But at least just not to start with that. At one point I did think maybe I should sell them. Maybe I should get rid of them, then I can't use them. But I thought, well, I probably would regret that if I did sell them. So I'm not going to do that. But yeah, so that's one thing, is just to try and start with something else, and not you always use that as the starting point. And that can be difficult sometimes, because you sit down and you don't always know what to do, and you're faced with that blank slate, and you think, oh, what am I going to do? And so you go to the familiar, and in my case that's rings and marbles and rings and clouds, and then you start getting ideas, and you move on from there. So trying to start with something different is a bit of a challenge. Another thing that I might do is start as I normally would, and then once the whole thing start to get something together, is to just pull out rings and just take it away. So I'm left with everything else, but rings, that was my starting point, I take that out, and it's gone. So that's another method that I might try. The other thing is to try and still use them, but use them differently. So a lot of the time I am using the rings in the I can't remember what all the modes are, but like the second mode and then the four note ringing mode. But the third mode, which is kind of like the sort of weirder mode, I don't use that very often. So I'm trying to use that a little bit more. And I don't know, is there like an Easter egg mode in rings? I feel that there is, but I can't remember what it is. Or maybe I'm thinking of plates. You can let me know if there is an Easter egg mode in rings that I've missed. And the same though with clouds. So a lot of the time, clouds is there for that lovely reverb. It's got different modes itself, and I've got the version which has got different firmwares, all the different firmware modes as well, which I never use. So trying to use some of those different modes as well, and that some of the granular stuff is really interesting, and also just trying to use it and just have the reverb turned off completely. So those are some of the things that I'm trying to do, and I think it is a case sometimes with a lot of modules that we have that there's the I can't remember what it's called, but the sort of 80-20 rule where you use 20% of the features 80% of the time, or something like that. Is that right? Yeah, and that's definitely the case here. So it's trying to trying to look at what some of the other features that I don't use so commonly, and trying to bring some of those out. So if that's something that's sort of you can relate to, let me know in the comments. Or as I say, if there are other modules that you feel you need to sort of break out of or use differently, let me know what those are as well. Hope this video has got you thinking a little bit, and if it has, then please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Okay, cheerio.